Minsk. As of January 2018, its population was 1,982,444, making Minsk the 10th most populous city in Europe. Minsk is the administrative capital of the Commonwealth of Independent States and seat of its executive secretary. The earliest historical references to Minsk date to the 11th century, when it was noted as a provincial city within the Principality of Polotsk. The settlement developed on the rivers. In 1242, Minsk became part of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. It received town privileges in 1499. From 1569, it was a capital of the Minsk voivodeship, in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. It was part of a region annexed by the Russian Empire in 1793. As a consequence of the Second Partition of Poland, from 1919 to 1991, after the Russian Revolution, Minsk was the capital of the Byelorussian Soviet Socialist Republic, in the Soviet Union. In June 2019, Minsk hosted the 2019 European Games. The Old East Slavic name of the town was Munsk, derived from a river named Men. The resulting form of the name, Minsk, and under the influence of Russian, this form also became official in Belarusian. The direct continuation of the name in Belarusian is Minsk, which some Belarusian speakers continue to use as their preferred name for the city. When Belarus was under Polish rule, the names Minsk-Litevsky, the area of today's Minsk, was settled by Lithuanians in the 9th and 10th centuries AD. The Swislach River Valley was the settlement boundary between two early East Slav tribes, the Kriviks and Dregoviks. By 980, the area was incorporated into the early medieval Principality of Polotsk, one of the earliest East Slav principalities of Old Rus state. Minsk was first mentioned in the name form Menesk in the primary chronicle for the year 1067 in association with the battle on the river Nemiga. 1067 is now widely accepted as the founding year of Minsk. City authorities consider the date of the 3rd of March 1067 to be the exact founding date of the city. Though the town had certainly existed for some time by then, the origin of the name is unknown, but there are several theories. In the early 12th century, the Principality of Polotsk disintegrated into smaller fiefs. The Principality of Minsk was established by one of the Polotsk dynasty princes. In 1129, the Principality of Minsk was annexed by Kiev, the dominant principality of Kievan Rus. However, in 1146 the Polotsk dynasty regained control of the principality. By 1150, Minsk rivaled Polotsk as the major city in the former Principality of Polotsk. The princes of Minsk and Polotsk were engaged in years of struggle trying to unite all lands. Previously under the rule of Polotsk, Minsk escaped the Mongol invasion of Rus in 1237 to 1239. In 1242, Minsk became a part of the expanding Grand Duchy of Lithuania. It joined peacefully and local elites enjoyed high rank in the society of the Grand Duchy. In 1413, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania and Kingdom of Poland entered into a union. Minsk became the center of Minsk voivodeship. In 1441, as Grand Duke of Lithuania, Casimir IV included Minsk in a list of cities enjoying certain privileges. And in 1499, during the reign of his son, Alexander I Jagiellon, Minsk received town privileges under Magdeburg law. In 1569, after the Union of Lublin, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania and the Kingdom of Poland merged into a single state, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. By the middle of the 16th century, Minsk was an important economic and cultural center in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. It was also an important center for the Eastern Orthodox Church. Following the Union of Brest, both the Uniate Church and the Roman Catholic Church increased in influence. In 1655, Minsk was conquered by troops of Tsar Alexei of Russia. Russians governed the city until 1660 when it was regained by John II Casimir, Grand Duke of Lithuania and King of Poland. By the end of the Polish-Russian War, Minsk had only about 2,000 residents and just 300 houses. The second wave of devastation occurred during the Great Northern War, When Minsk was occupied in 1708 and 1709 by the army of Charles XII of Sweden and then by the army of Peter the Great, the last decades of the Polish rule involved decline or very slow development. Since Minsk had become a small provincial town of little economic or military significance, Minsk was annexed by Russia in 1793 as a consequence of the Second Partition of Poland. In 1796, it became the center of the Minsk Governorate. All of the initial street names were replaced by Russian names, though the spelling of the city's name remained unchanged. It was briefly occupied by the Grande Army during French invasion of Russia in 1812. Throughout the 19th century, the city continued to grow and significantly improve. In the 1830s, major streets and squares of Minsk were cobbled and paved. A first public library was opened in 1836, and a fire brigade was put into operation in 1837. In 1838, the first local newspaper, Minskie Gubanskiye Wade,